because I thought that governmental work really could have been better dealt with. And, you know, issues have now been raised about alleged deportation of Anambarians from Lagos. And I don't know how I could really set out to go and deport. I thought that governmental work really could have been better dealt with. And, you know, issues have now been raised about alleged deportation of Anambarians from Lagos. And I don't know how I could really set out to go and deport Anambarians and look them in the eyes. Because that's his state. He's a member of this government. And there are no decisions that we take in private that are not discussed extensively. And if there are very sensitive local issues there, his advice has always been very useful. So this has nothing to do with either Igbos or any coloration of the Igbo nation or the Igbo people in any sense. But unfortunately, it has profited some people to paint it that way. You know, and as I've said, perhaps if we go back, there's a pattern to this also. Anytime elections in Anambra seem to come up now, there seems to be a potential intention to incite Igbos against their host communities. And I don't know what the issue is. Because I don't know any one of us, at least not me, and Ben hasn't told me he wants to contest governorship in Anambra. But this seems to be an emerging pattern. You know? And, you know, to now suggest that Igbos are being discriminated against by this government, or that people's rights are being violated, I want to use this opportunity to say that none of these suggestions of discrimination or violation of rights is true. None of them. Now, this is a very simple and routine procedure. Mental health, for example, is one area where, because of stigma, nobody has attended to it. We deal with kidney disease, we deal with eye problems, but there are people who have mental illness. They seemingly just jaywalk around the road. Some don't even know where they are. I am concerned about those people. And I have gotten my colleagues in government to let us show concern about these issues. I think that somebody should stand up for them, and that's why we started. Some of the reports that he has filed to me, verified by council members, about how very prosperous and rich people are using infants and vulnerable people in the name of begging and other slavery, are things that as a responsible government we will not take lying down. So we are intervening, saving people from hostages, saving them from themselves. So, and this is this routine process that throws up challenges for us, that has either, I think, and there are things that I think that our government should be commended for, but they have either been misunderstood or deliberately manipulated to create a misunderstanding. Now, as head of this government, I understand and I value the quality of our rich and diverse human capital. And I have acknowledged this on many occasions. Our ability to live mutually and to coexist peacefully, I understand, has been critical to the progress that we have recorded here. And I will not do anything or lend myself to anything that jeopardizes that kind of relationship. For me, this place remains a home and a place of refuge for all those who respect his traditions and his laws, and we intend to keep it that way. You know, but the facts have just been grossly over-exaggerated or distorted. And I want to address those facts. Now, the facts are that 14 people, not 70, not 72, or not 67, destitutes, as we have them, were picked up on our streets as part of a routine exercise. Just last weekend, I read in the report the story of somebody with mental infirmity, a woman around Oshodi that was alleged to have been impregnated by somebody. Immediately I called him to go and pick up the woman. The woman has been brought in. We're looking after her. So for me, human life, human welfare has no political coloration. I don't care where you come from. As governor of this state, my responsibility is to serve everybody who depends and trusts on my ability, whether you voted for me or not. So, it was 14 people that were involved in this exercise. And what did we do? We took them to Majidun Rehabilitation Center. It's not a detention camp, as has been published, and you can go there to go and see. Oh yes, it can be improved upon. In fact, our decision in ESCO about January this year or February was to upgrade it into a state-run mental institution because there is none here. The only one we have is the federal one in Yaba. And we've taken a lot of consultancy and a lot of things in upgrading. I've been there myself. And I believe that the facilities can be improved upon. But do we support the place from budget? Yes, we do. Do we have social workers there? Yes, we do. We have medical personnel there? Yes, we do. So, and in this process, they look after these people, detoxify them, clean them up, rehabilitate them, and when they are able to interact and communicate, the first thing that comes up, we want to go home. Or the person we came to look for, we can't find. We have been sleeping under the bridge. Can you help us back home? These are reports that come escalated to me, so I know what is happening. I follow it. And from time to time, we have helped them back to the place that they call home. And there's no way. I can't say that this person comes from this place or does not come from that place. I can only rely on what he tells me through my officers. Now, in this particular case, you know, it's unfortunate and it remains unclear to me why the governor of Anambra chose the media as the first place to report a grievance. He has called me severally on less important issues. This time he chose not to call. He wrote to the president. He didn't write to me to complain. I'm still at a loss why this is the strategy this time. You know? And I also read a report, I think, in the Sun newspapers, excerpting parts of the letter saying that Lagos did not consult any, and this is what it says: Lagos State did not even bother to consult Anambra State authorities before deporting 72 persons. First of all, as I've said, it was 14. His letter states 72. Now, because if it is true that he made that allegation that we didn't consult them, I think that it was either being economical with the truth, or he chose deliberately to mislead the public for whatever reason, or that his officers were not briefing him. Because we were in contact with the Anambra State government through their liaison office in Lagos. There were exchange of correspondence. We told them we had 14 people. And all of these letters are here. I'll make them available to you. And all the while, we were telling them about integrating these people back with their home community. They were replying on their letterhead with integration. So I don't know how integration has suddenly become deportation. There are clear exchange of correspondence here. A letter which we wrote on the 9th, reintegration of beggars and destitutes with their families. from the Office of Special Advisor of Youth and Social Development. A reply from Anambra State Liaison Office, Lagos, 15th April, titled Reintegration Beggars and Destitute. And what they said was, look, may I request the particulars of the 14 persons claiming to the indigenes of Anambra State to be furnished to us to enable us make proper inquiry as to their true state of origin. We replied on the 29th of April, attaching the list as based on the information those people could communicate. Ikanu local Nkono Ani Onyekwa Oku, and they had very various towns, villages, Ikanu, Ihiala, Umunama, Ikolegbene, Onitsha, Osarobi, and so on and so forth. Isia, local government. That's the best we have from them. Now, you know, so to say that they were not aware, but they didn't respond. Now, these people were putting pressure on us. There's only so much mouth that we can feed and we can house in the camp. If we don't decongest it, other people can't come in. It's a tight and difficult situation, I agree. Perhaps maybe we should improve too. But we had to take a decision. And if people say they want to go home, I thought helping them to the nearest place similar to where they say is home. I don't know. If Anambra government had come, they would have been able to tell us, oh, this person does not bear a name known in Anambra, or this village is not in Anambra, and we can sort out things. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not new. You know, because Akwa Ibom is doing the same thing. They sent me also a letter saying that they have 2 people claiming to be from Lagos State. I didn't go to the press. I didn't allege deportation. I went there to go and pick up these 2 people. They are not from Lagos after we have interviewed them, but we've taken them in. We are looking through the southwest now because they have Yoruba names, obviously. So this is a simple issue. So I think that I will give you all of these documents. The letter from Akwa Ibom is also here. This is the government of Akwa Ibom. This is our reply, saying that, look, these people don't have local names here. They have Yoruba names, which is generic across the region. We will find out where their homes are. This is what this issue is all about. It's a big storm in a teacup. So for me, and you know, the worrisome thing, of course, is that some of the debate that has gone on also by our so-called constitutional experts has not helped matters. Freedom of movement, and all. We respect those freedoms. We respect them. I'm not just a lawyer, I'm a leader of the Nigerian bar by virtue of rank. I respect those freedoms, but they are not absolute. Even the Constitution provides that laws can be made in a democratic society that limits those rights. So you have a right to freedom of association, fine. But there are laws that say that you can't be a member of a secret court. So your rights stop where the need for decency and law and order and the protection of other citizens begin. You have a right to move anywhere you like. What the Constitution says really is that you can't be deported from Nigeria. It does not mean that each of the component states cannot act in a way to prevent dumping or if you want to live in my house, you must live according to certain minimum rules. There's still the common law of nuisance, and if you become a nuisance, I must also protect myself. How I do it, of course, are issues about which you and I can continue to engage. Otherwise, this place also, how many people can it take? We can't expand the land space. Everybody is welcome, yes. but only up to a particular point. As more people come, more people leave. So, it's just to let people know the rights are not absolute. None of them. Not even the right to life is absolute. Because there's a criminal law that says if you take life, they will take your life back. So you can't, in the defense of saying you have a right to life, take anybody's life. And so our experts also, and maybe just moderate the way we agitate all of these things. So for me, I want to say to you that if we have caused you any distress here, it wasn't intended, and I truly am sorry about all of the pressures that you have been facing from your home communities. But this was a matter that ought never to have entered the newspaper. And of course, this is what sells papers anyway. So, you see, as for the letters that my learned friend Wazirike referred to, I've seen the letter. In fact, it's something that I had scheduled with the Chief of Staff that I want to attend. So, because I don't discount the relationship that we have had. And there's too much of, as I tell people, that I have a cousin who is very strange combination, Gani Okafo. You know, he's my cousin. You know, so my roommates in university, all of this. So I mean, this is a storm in a teacup, totally needless. And that was why I thought this was not something to start debating in the newspapers. You know, so as for LASMA and Kai, let me say that there are institutions for a purpose. There are institutions to promote law and order, enforce traffic, keep the environment clean and safe. The challenges we have about life expectancy is not so much that our healthcare system has not improved. It's more about self-inflicted healthcare risks. The way we live, the way we dispose of our refuse, and so on and so forth. So there must be an agency, some governmental activity to deal with that. Oh, and in every dozen, there will be one or two bad eggs. I can't sit down here and say that people have not acted improperly. I can't do that. But I want to repeat again that instead of dealing with the institution, it's people who make institutions and it's people who discredit them. If there is a LASMA or Kai officer who has done something wrong, let us deal with improper behavior for what it is. Let us not deal with improper behavior on the altar of ethnic, that, he has come because I'm Igbo, or I'm Hausa, or I'm Christian. It colors the issue in a way that it is difficult to be rational. Those issues bring deep emotions. So if there is bad behavior has no coloration. Just like you said, excellence has no coloration. So we deal with bad behavior for what it is. But once we agitate complaints about bad behavior on ethnic or religious grounds, everybody who should be involved, who knows about the subject, who is competent to speak, who has an agenda, gets on that train, and it becomes a gravy train without a driver. It becomes a mob action. Now, can we all sit down here and clearly say that we should scrap LASMA? I don't know how we will move traffic. So, but have we given up? No. LASMA is undergoing training. Kai is undergoing training as I speak to you. That's why we are taking them through communal issues, getting them to relate more to communities, to understand that their primary purpose is to serve people. And whether you like it or not, we also have our own share of the blame. We haven't taken off our military. So everybody is a big man. So when LASMA stop you, What is our normal reaction in some cases? Who are you? Don't you know me? I will call Ben for you now, and the man says, okay, you better call that Ben. I'm not going to leave you alone. So we need to also show them some courtesies. Because they are out there in the sun and in the rain to serve you and I. In terms of training and improving their development, that's what we are doing. And we will soon be announcing policy to show massive reforms that are taking place. There is work going on under this thing. As you know us, we are not a government given to self-regulation. When we finish the solution, we will bring it out and we will take it from there. It's never going to be a finished article. It's a work in progress. But you will see a better LASMA, a better KAI as we go ahead. You would have heard some of our even some of our advocacy messages that no LASMA officer must go out there without his uniform, without his name tag. These are advocacy messages we ourselves put out to empower citizens. You can't cover your uniform with your reflective jacket. Because if you do something wrong, we want to be able to identify you and take you out as a cancer in the family. So we are policing. So instead of throwing the baby with the bathwater, tell us this person has done wrong. We will investigate. He has the right to defend himself. If we find him culpable, we will apply sanctions. If, on the other hand, the citizen has been overly sensitive, then we will find a way to say, no, the citizen too should apologize. It's only fair. Because sometimes some of us are very, very sensitive to being asked to even do the right thing. So that is the much I think that I can usefully share with you. I will give you copies of the letters that have transpired on this matter, and I hope that well, our friends here with the political heart, we have to continue to appeal to them that we must play politics with a lot of honor, with a lot of candor. Because ultimately, what is most important is the service to the people. And if service is at the heart of it, it will not get to these very desperate levels. It should never. Because really and truly, I don't know, but it's just a matter of values. Thank you. Okay. Oh yes. Perhaps why not? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much.